everyone, welcome to the final week of the regular season here at the NLC. Of course, before we start, I have to thank our sponsors, El Giganton, Corsair, Telia, and MasterCard. Cool, awkward silence out the way. Let's get on with the show. On the desk, I'm going to be having Trouble, Gulborg, and I am ever so pleased to welcome back Froskurin to the desk as well. You will all be on the desk with me, I think, over the course of the next 3 days. Froskurin might be taking a little bit of time out to go and do some casting as well. But I'm very much excited because this is the last week of regular play. This is where we decide who is going forward in the playoffs. We decide who is going to have a shot at the European Masters and at the title of the NLC. First of all, before we sort of get into this week, let's take a look at what happened last week. And we can bring up some replays and show you exactly what went down. And apart from Fnatic dominance, as always, what else happened last week, guys?
Well, you know what? I kind of saw Froskurin on the LECs. He's like, well, it's not about Excel and Fnatic, guys. Trick, you should keep your eyes on Trick. But guess what? Trick lost to Eminem last week. They looked like rubbish while Eminem was styling on them. And something else that might come as a surprise is that actually Eminem are still not out. They're holding on strong. They don't want that relegation spot, and they're still fighting.
I'm actually quite happy about Eminem.
And I think someone else that we wanted to look towards was Munster. Obviously, they are a team that had big expectations, of which, for the most part, weren't being met, Froskurin.
And that's kind of been the story of Munster. Every time you talk to one of the teams, had them in the interview, their name will always come up. They're obviously very well respected for the caliber of players that they have covering that entire roster. But that word that we keep throwing out, consistency, has been the bane of their existence and pretty much the bane of the entire league's existence. It's more about who can be consistent on the day that will probably clinch playoffs.
And I think realistically, overall, we've got lots to talk about when it comes to who's going to be making those playoff spots. I don't even know where to start, but a good place to start once we sort of work through the replays is when we get to the standings. Because as we said, the only people that are absolutely guaranteed first place right now is Fnatic, as far as I'm aware. And there are a few other teams that are currently locked into playoffs. But other than that, there is so much shuffling around in terms of what can happen in terms of seedings going into those playoff spots as well. But I think realistically, for the most part, we could all say that Fnatic are the most dominant team in the league right now. So everybody's kind of chasing their coattails in terms of trying to become a team at that level. Guys, let's have a look at the standings, and I can kind of give you a picture of where we are in the NLC right now. Let's have a look at Group A. We have XL at the top at 6-2, but as you can see, there is very little gap between them and Riddle and Nordavind. I mean, we are looking at a one game can swing things either way here in Group A. No one is guaranteed their position. We'll quickly move over to Group B, and we can show you the other side of the coin, and that will be Fnatic up at the top at 8-0, unable to be caught at this point in time, guaranteed first in Division B. But other than that, from Tricked down to Barrage and Dusty, there's a little bit of movement that can take place.
Yeah, it's just to echo your sentiment there, Scoundrel. It's the fact that the only team that seems to be safe in playoffs right now is Fnatic. And even if you look at the other side with Excel, they technically haven't locked their seed in first, even though they have locked playoffs. And that's kind of the big disparity here. You have Fnatic who's just crushing through. And even for Excel, there's that tiny little voice, that tiny little pressure that if you don't lock first, you're going to have a bad time hitting Fnatic in the draw. So pressure's still on for Excel. They needed to show the dominance. Every single game is going to count. And it looks like we're going to come down to the wire for the NLC playoffs.
And just to continue a little bit the conversation over on Group A, I feel like ENCE and Godsend are fighting so hard for their lives right now. ENCE are holding on for dear life on that last spot of the playoffs, and I feel like Godsend are so close behind them to snatch it off. Every single game counts from now on. We only have 3 days left, and these two teams I feel like will fight tooth and nail to get the last spot on Group A.
Yeah, and speaking of having to fight for that, let's take it over to Group B instead, because we got Dusty and Barrage too. They're in the almost exact same scenario, where Barrage is not only fighting for playoff streams, but also fighting against M&M of not making relegation. And the same can be said about Dusty. It's time for them to finally turn up. We saw a glimpse of it last week, but they're still an incredibly inconsistent team, and it could still go either way for these teams too. So there's a lot to be answered for in this week. I can't wait to get the games going.
Yeah, and guys, I want to kind of go into those kind of broad statements a little bit more in detail, if that's okay with you. And I want to start off with Fnatic and their dominance. They are 8-0 in the league right now. Why? Like, talk to me about this team. Like, what is it that makes them a cut above the rest in our league? Because that's what they are. They are a cut above the rest in terms of the kind of the power of this team.
I think just like at the professional level in the LEC, it was kind of a race to see who was going to figure out your identity first, because the first step in being consistent is having a consistent identity. And Fnatic had that not just with their drafting pattern, but also with their key players, their jungle and their mid laner, respectively, for me. The fact that Magifelix is constantly performing on more of these scaling picks, like the Corki, like the Azir, the fact that Dan is more of a pathing or farming-oriented jungler, which was very powerful in the meta right now. I think, A, the meta was strong for them. They figured out exactly what they wanted to play on this meta, and they did it every single time to great success. And that's even before you then start to measure their individual players versus kind of the individual caliber of talent to the rest of the league.
And I just really like that word you bring out there, identity, right? Because that's one of the things that a lot of teams are struggling with in an ERL setting. If you can figure out that identity as soon as possible, you will often just get a lot of easy wins. And as you said, it's that drafting style we have seen. It's just really consistent about it. They like having a safe late game scaling, but not only that, they're able to execute it. And you can argue, yeah, it's easy to execute compositions. But last split, Fnatic looked like a strong league team, even in regular split. But now every position on Fnatic is actually looking really good and above the rest of the teams.
And I just have to bring in the fact that these guys have already played together, you know, for an entire season. They came in with the same people. They knew each other. They had already gelled together. They knew how they wanted to play. They came in, no surprises. They've been playing the same exact playstyle because there's no one can touch them. And if you don't need to bring the ace out of your sleeve in a league like this, at some point, you're going to have to, because you're practicing for EU Masters. Because this is what I see Fnatic doing here. They're not necessarily being contested about anything. It's just a more official scream for them to get into EU Masters.
And actually, I want to throw a comparison down here, because we always, and I think it's inescapable when we have Fnatic and XL in the league, like we've had throughout the UK league and now obviously in the NLC, it's inescapable to make a comparison between these two teams. They've been at each other's throats for about 3 or 4 seasons now, and it has always kind of been the final that we've seen in our respective leagues. And I think Gulbog mentioned identity. Gulbog mentioned identity about XL. We talked about, and we've heard from XL that they're trying things out. They're treating it like scrims. This, to me, feels like a team that hasn't found their identity yet. What do you think works for XL, and what do you think doesn't? Because that's the question I think even XL are struggling to answer right now. But that's kind of my question to you guys. What is working for XL and what isn't? And what is going to make them as strong as possible coming into the latter stage of this tournament?
I believe we saw it against when they played against Nordavind last week too. When you had a team that actually had their fundamentals in place and XL couldn't get a cheek win out of the individuality alone. They actually had a proper, easy to execute composition. It was even easy for Hatrix to shine on his Orianna pick. The thing is, Sendo and Taxter, can argue they have been heavily underperforming this split. They were on easy champions too. I think they were on Trundle and on duty too. So it's really easy for them to execute on their role in this specific team as well. And then it was just really easy for Deadly to be Deadly with Kasing. He's an incredibly good AD carry. It was easy for Hatrix with the Orianna to back it up. I think that they just need easy to execute composition, get their fundamentals back on, and when you have them in check, well, then you can start being this experimental team that you want to become.
Yeah, I think Goldberg hit the nail on the head talking about fundamentals and experimentation. When I watch a lot of Excel's game, it's clear that they're still learning or trying to branch out some of their macro play in specific. I think if you give them all of their comfort champions and they just run you into the lane phase, then you can see where this team really shines, which is they have a strong mid laner, they have an exceptionally strong bot lane, especially with Deadly and Kasing down there, that everyone is always going to praise. But it feels like they really have been trying to branch out and figure out, okay, how do we snowball a game effectively? How do we push the limit? And they're not always consistent consistent on making the right macro call. So I'm just curious that when push comes to shove, when Excel really do need to show up, if they can kind of show us all of this experimentation or this practice, these scrims on stage that they've gained, and really clean up some of this macro performance.
Honestly, the thing that bugs me the most that you talked about is running their opponents down in lane. We saw hat tricks on EU Masters. He was counter picking with all these assassins. He was playing the Echoes, the Akalis, the LeBlancs. He was literally running his opponents down. Last week in his interview, he said, well, I really wish I could play the Echo and the Akali because that's something that I really, really like to play and I enjoy that, but I just don't have to with this team. And I don't see why he doesn't have to, because once he pops off, I feel like they've been trying to find their identity so much. I don't see why they're not experimenting around playing around hat tricks, because it worked with the Azir. You snowball something like an assassin in his hands, I think he could wreak havoc in the entire game. So you're experimenting with everything, just let him glow as a player, because I know everyone's like, sure, he plays his mates and stuff, but I felt like hat tricks shined so much playing on the counter pick assassins in the mid lane.
Yeah, I just think that, I agree with you. I just think the issue is trying to make those picks work in the current meta. Now, on 14, Zed and Karthus were patched through, and I think if you ever actually want an assassin to really work, that you need to play the Karthus, because if an assassin takes you to 80%, the Karthus can finish off the other 20%. So maybe they've got that one brewing, but I don't know. I know that the main LEC team, Cadril, was big on the Karthus, so maybe it trickles down into the Academy too.
We'll have to see. I remember interviewing Hatrix, and he was saying, my favorite playstyle is when I get to play the Akalis and the Zeds, but it's just not something that's been viable for a long time. But speaking of viability, 10-15, we are on to a new patch. That is the big thing. That's the big thing that we need to kind of cover for the upcoming playoffs. And I want to start off with some of the bigger changes. Trouble, I believe Aphelios is the first on your list.
Yeah, and it could be a sort of nerf, but I do know that in teams, it's still on the A list. And sure, every single bit of his guns has been nerfed slightly. Here we have the Crescendum and the Infernum taking a hit, but I do still believe that he's going to be viable. Is he going to be a blue side first pick priority? Maybe not, but he could potentially be used like the Orianna. You just get him because your player is very comfortable in playing this champion, and he can sort of create a whole composition around that late game hyper carry. Now, something else that, in my opinion, did get nerfed though really hard is the Twisted Fate. His cards, when he's swapping around them, he can't do it that often anymore. 6 seconds went all the way up to 8 in the early stages, and this is something that really made Twisted Fate stick to lane. He could use it once to clear the wave, and then he could use it again to gain mana, which means that he could stay for as long as he wanted until he reached peak items. Now he's going to have to choose his cards much more wisely.
And yeah, speaking of globals, let's take it to the Shen instead, because Shen is one of the champions that actually got a pretty huge buff. I mean, on his level 1 shield, we're talking 20 extra shielding, level 1. Does it make him come back as a blind pick? I don't necessarily know, but I still think he can be good in certain matchups, so we might see more of him. Moving from the top lane to the jungle, let's take it to Gragas instead. Gragas obviously coming in pretty good here after a Predator buff from the last patch too. Now Riot wants to get the Drunken Man a bit further ahead in the meta with some ability power ratios being buffed here. So from the W, 0.5 to 0.6, and his ultimate, the Explosive Cast, 0.7 to 0.8. So some extra ability power from his itemization pathing can possibly make him come back together with this Predator buff.
And while that's all well and good, ultimately Orianna and Volibear are still left untouched, and those have kind of been the primary blind picks for multiple teams. I think the biggest change, obviously for niche picks like the Shen as well as the Twisted Fate, will probably be in the bot lane with Aphelios continuously getting nerfed, but it feels like the rise of the Ashe, the Volibear, the Orianna are still very safe, and outside of maybe a weird Lux Sona possibility, the meta should stay pretty consistent to what it was before.
And that raises the question. I'm going to leave this question with our audience and with you guys for the break. Does this affect any teams coming into playoffs? Are we going to see any team buffs and nerfs with respect to the 10-15 changes? Well, as I said, I'm going to leave that with you guys. We're going to go to a quick break, and then we're going to wind up for our first game.
Monk able to survive with a killer instinct, and Vital's already dead. PlayStation able to get in onto Monk. Stop chased out here, kicks away the Corki. Doesn't want any piece of that action, but Evan's gonna...
Dusty now forced to scatter away from the M&M members, but Legion's jumps in again, finds himself a double kill. Anyone will fall down. It's a triple kill for Legions again. Now gonna get locked in place for the moment from the stun as they look to get a little bit more, but Sevek able to hold his life. He finally goes down. Down goes energy. Jackson still firing away. You can't kill the Ophelia. M&M are sent packing as Dusty walk away with the fight. If he dies here, this could just be Baron. Maxlaw jumps in, instantly taken down, but Maxlaw steals the Baron.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, we are working towards our first game of the day. But before we do, let me show you which games we've got coming up. We have our schedule, and I can show you that we have Nordavind versus... I don't know why I'm showing you. It just is. We have Nordavind versus Riddle.
Like, you're really confused. You're like, let's see what the... Yeah, that's the game.
Oh my gosh. Nordavind versus Riddle is our first game. Singularity versus VTXR. Actually, you know what? I don't even need to say it. I'm actually just done. Guys.
I can help you out here.
Yeah, you go.
Every game counts. That is going to be the motto of these next 3 days. We have some stacked games. Every team also has their future in their own hands, especially when it comes to some of those races, because we have some people fighting each other for that last ticket into playoffs. So it's a packed day.
Thank you, Frosk. You are a better host than I am. Let's work towards that first game, though. Nordavind versus Riddle. This is a pretty big deal. And I know that it's something that I'm sure Gulborg is very keen to get his claws into.
It's the Battle of Norway. We're back.
Oh, no.
Obviously, these fools will tell you today is about making playoffs. It's about getting further into the game, into the...
He doesn't have a flag for this one.
Playoffs race. But listen, there's so much more at stake, right? It's the Battle of Norway.
Pride.
It's about pride, exactly. It's exactly what it is. And it's about revenge. Because last time, Riddle...
Revenge.
Yeah, exactly. Last time, Riddle looked incredibly bad going into Nordavind. Nordavind played them like fools. And to me, it's not going to go that way anymore. I actually think that Riddle's going to have it this time, because the last 2 weeks we have seen Nordavind looking struggling. And on the other hand, on Riddle, they have been on the rise, and we've seen multiple times with the tweet from Doxy, they are feeling themselves now. I actually think this is an incredibly close race today against these two teams, and I can't wait to get it going.
Okay, so outside of him being very, very excited for this one is also just about playoffs. There's huge playoff implications here, so obviously a must-win for either team. Nordavind did barely win the first time these teams played. It came down to more of the 5v5 versus the individual skill from Riddle. So I am a little bit concerned because I predicted Nordavind in this one if Riddle also show up with teamwork here, because that was just kind of the last thing that they really need to work on and why they didn't win this battle the first time around.
I mean, realistically, Riddle have gone from a team where we were eternally disappointed into them to a team where we seem to be eternally surprised about what they're achieving. So, I mean, I do think that we are seeing a Riddle that has kind of recouped and regathered. I'm still going back to that whole Riddle reborn theory that we saw coming out from Doxy on Twitter. It definitely feels like a new team. It feels like they're even giving Doxy more agency in the top lane, and that is allowing him to be a bit more expressive, because he's, I think, one of the really, like, individually should be one of the best top laners in our tournament. And I think, we're seeing a bit more from Riddle in that sense here as well. But I think that kind of leads into the most important point, is the current form of these two teams. Riddle on good form, Nordavind on shaky form. Is that going to weigh into this particular matchup?
I mean, obviously it is, right? It's the precedent we're playing in, and it doesn't matter what happened last time. It is a fact that Riddle is on the upswing and Nordavind has been shaky. And not only that, this is where you need to make every game count. We've been saying it for the past pre-game here, that every game counts, even this game here. And not only because of the Battle of Norway, obviously, there are stakes at play here. If Nordavind win, then no matter what, Riddle cannot catch up to them. They will be 2-0 in the head-to-head, and that will be phenomenal for Nordavind going forward into this playoff race.
And obviously, Riddle could also fall out of playoffs. If they lose here and lose to Singularity, like, they don't have the clinched spot, and so it is still a pretty important game for Riddle if they want to move on to playoffs. I really want to go back to what you said and kind of talk about their current form, though, Excoundrel, and you brought up Doxy as the top laner, because I feel like Doxy has always been very powerful, and it's not so much about Doxy changing up his play style or being unleashed, but more so the team learning how to work with Doxy more and empower him more. The first time these teams played, he got so so far ahead on this gangplank, and they just were unable to get him into the correct fights to let him really have his power felt. And so that's what I'm actually looking for specifically in this matchup, is for Doxy to run away with this one and continue to abuse topside.
And I love how you mentioned that, you know, Riddle is still trying to figure out how to make their components work together as one. Nordavind seem to have it figured out on paper, but when it comes to execution, they falter. So they know exactly how they want to play. They know exactly who their star is. Every single, you know, arrow falls on top of Chrisberg's head. They're like, this is the guy. This is who's going to carry us. We need to facilitate for him. And then he's going to give us the victories. Fair enough. But when they go into the game, they don't know if they want to push them to the early game. They don't know if they want to wait. And if they have to wait, how long do they have to wait? How much can they afford to lose before Chrisberg starts carrying, before they start getting the fights that they need? So on paper, everything's great. They've realized their play style, they've realized what game they're playing, but the execution is still lacking. Now, going up against Riddle has been 50-50 the entire season. Sure, towards now, they fixed their stuff and they're playing more of a cohesive game, but Nordavind is still that great fundamentally team that could turn it around if they take it into a team fight.
Yeah, my brain says, what you're saying is going into my brain, and I'm agreeing with it. I'm nodding. I'm like, yes, Trouble, this is all right. But then we've always called Nordavind consistent, and recently they haven't been. We've always called Riddle 50-50, but they've looked consistent. It feels like things have switched up over the last couple of weeks, and that is going to make this particular matchup very interesting. Now, we are going to be heading into Champion Select in just a moment, but before we do, I do have to bring up the predictions for today. Silly host, we got to do this earlier. This is our complete spread of predictions, and I'm not going to give us much time to chat about it, but Froskurin is actually betting... Froskurin is actually betting alongside Hitbrain on the beacon of consistency that we always called Nordavind. We'll have to see if that works out. Now, I'm sure we can get into a bit more of that when we get to Champion Select, but we do have a quick break to go to, and when we're back, it will be that first game on a plate ready to go.
paradise.
Plate served. Nordavind versus Riddle. We are into champion select. It is going to be Nordavind on the blue side, Riddle on the red, and a Karthus ban, as Frosk said, going to be maybe a very influential pick here, and it's already off the table.
So Karthus not only as a jungle is still quite effective, but I've heard that in scrims he's being flexed into the mid as well as in the bot lane. So I actually expect him to shoot up in higher priority. And again, as Trouble was talking about earlier, if you are an Assassin fan, if you want to see Assassins played, you want Karthus to be played. Because with the current itemization in League, you can no longer 100-0 most champions, but you can get them down to about 20%, and that's where the Karthus unlocks them. So I expect to see this one continuously on the bans. If it does come through, there's a very strong chance of a Karthus set.
You just crushed my dream, didn't you?
We've also been talking about a lot of the AD carries, and so far we don't really see any AD carry banned right now. We got the likes of Ezreal and Ashe still up and available. Okay, I spoke too soon. That's the Ezreal. Question is the priority that high that you want to ban the Ashe here too? While the likes of Syndra is still up, and we know that Ericsson has been fond of playing them, we also know that Chris Berg is the guy that really heavily prioritized getting a good AD carry. So let's see where this last ban takes the two teams.
Yeah, I think you hit it right there, Goldberg. It's what do you prioritize? Do you prioritize getting a power pick for your ADC or a power pick for your mid laner? Now, Orianna is also there as a blind pick, especially because Ashe has been taken away. And I think Ori's the best pick here, unless you're just a Syndra specialist or you really want to try to blitz 2v2 mid jungle, because Ori has the shield that if you are against a Syndra, that you can just absorb all of it. But oh my god, what year is it when we're a Azir priority pick? We want perma push priority. So junglers like Trundle and Olaf suddenly climb way higher up in priority because you assume that this will be either a LeBlanc or an Orianna to face into the Azir. I think that they might still like Zoe in this region, but Azir is going to empower a really aggressive jungler. I'm wrong on both accounts. He's like, I'm not even going to lane. TF, what up?
You thought he was nerfed? Haha. Well, I actually think that with the pick of the Azir here, we might see Christmas still end up playing the Aphelios. And now with the Misfortune as well, I think the chances go higher and higher because you want to fight fire with fire and you want to go into that late game sort of scaling composition where one misstep by the Misfortune could be heavily punished by the Azir as well. So I wouldn't be surprised to see that Nordavind will go back to the Aphelios again.
Well, this is exactly what we wanted from Senko. Because last week, he was on this Twisted Faith too. It ended up being banning out against him in the next couple of games, especially because he was so good at influencing the map. The way that Senkox and Maxi started to play the 2v2 jungle was in a way we had not yet seen, and it worked out great for them. So I'm actually quite glad to see this Twisted Faith come through. Granted, it was with a volleyball last week, so it was really easy to come in and dive a top side, get that Doxy lead ahead. But with a Twisted Faith like this, you can enable Doxy, as we have talking about in the pre-show too.
And likewise, nice pivot there for the Renekton. And likewise, the Twisted Fate nerfs, I don't actually think hurt that much, just because, it's a 2-second nerf on the W, but you're maxing Q anyway. So, I don't know, you probably feel it a little bit, but it's mostly for setup rather than trying to hard chain CC all the time. It does mean that you probably need a hard engage here, like a Nautilus or a Leona, because you want to be snowballing a side lane. This tells me that they feel really strongly about their top lane matchup and trying to abuse it rather than setting up the Twisted Fate for success. So the fact that you see a Renekton pick and then you opt for Doxy to get the ranged counter pick, if you will, on the Gnar, tells me that Sincox is looking at his bot lane. He's like, we could give you a Nautilus and Leona, and I could try to snowball 2 people bottom with this Twisted Fate, but that's not where I'm going. This is all about crushing topside with Doxy.
This is something that we've seen as well. If you think about some of Doxy's best champions, Gnar is right up there on the list. I think Doxy has got an incredible affinity to playing Gnar. He's just managed to make it work across the competitive settings across numerous years. We're into the second ban phase. We have kept supports and junglers to the second round of picks here. And as Froskurin said, there are some junglers that are really high priority with Azir. We'll see if they get taken off the board.
I mean, I wouldn't be... Go ahead.
Go Trouble.
I wouldn't be surprised to see Graves as well as Nidalee banned. These are the Maxi specials. And it's just so interesting how through one season you see junglers prioritize first pick, Graves, Nidalee, Trundles, Volibears. And then suddenly it's all about making sure that your players are comfortable in what they're playing. And that's what we're seeing so far from these both teams here.
Yeah, I'm curious if Maxi is going to go for an AD jungler like the Nocturne that he's also showcased, which would work very well with the Twisted Fate, or if he is going to go for an AP jungler just because he's sitting now next to Gnar, and if this is really going to be about punishing Gnar, then bringing mixed damage as opposed to going double physical and making it super easy for the itemization for Renekton. Now, I am actually really curious that they didn't ban the Nautilus. We talked about how Nautilus and Leona, it was going to come through, you needed the hard engage, but now it feels like Riddle lost nothing in the composition that they were putting together. They have the punishment of the Gnar on the top side, and they have the snowball potential of the hard CC by bringing the Nautilus in tandem with the Twisted Fate. Sync can go anywhere, top or bot now.
I really liked how you're like, oh, okay, they can't play for bot lane anymore. We're getting into the second ban phase. Nautilus still left open, so you can still play for that bot side. But the thing is, I actually understand how they heavily prioritize Doxy. I actually think, as in terms of bot laners, Ray and Vendelbo is a kind of weak side. They have shined in teamfight, but the laning phase has been fairly weak in condition to other bot lanes. I think Doxy, on the other hand, has been shown that he is able to snowball a lead if he actually gets one. And I understand that you go for a counter pick here too, because when the Nautilus is up, why not just grab it?
Oh, okay. Talking about grabbing, we talked that maybe Doxy and Maxi wanna play together, snowball that top side. In all honesty, seeing the Gragas being locked in here, I'm seeing the Renekton and the Gragas, I'm like, does Doxy overstep? Does Doxy not manage his wave properly? Does he not get shadowed by Maxi on that Kha'Zix? There's a lot of potential for the dive top lane.
And I just really like where Riddle got their composition here. I think they got all they wanted, to be fair. They had the priority on the Twisted Fate for Senkox. They get Doxy on a comfort matchup with the Kha'Zix. They have a perfect bot lane, or rather perfect, right? It's not necessarily what you want to go for, but it's reasonable with the Misfortune and the Nautilus. And then you can get the Kha'Zix into the Gragas combined with the Twisted Fate. There is pick potential for days with this composition too.
Yeah, I think it's pretty much what you guys were talking about kind of pre-match. If you have Riddle on one side that are really going for the individual strength of their players and having agency on so many of their members to play hit and run League of Legends, Nordavind are really banking on team-oriented League of Legends. It's about waiting for Aphelios and Azir, creating space for them with the Renekton, the Gragas, and the Braum, and slowly winning team fights. So I think this is going to come down to if Riddle can survive the individual power of Riddle, maybe they have a chance. Otherwise, I think Riddle can run away with this one in some of their individual 1v1 matchups.
Something that we've always questioned just before we go to casters is that Nolte has been a question mark sometimes when it comes to Nordavind. This is one of his most comfortable junglers that he's played throughout his entire career. It's alongside the things that we talk about with his Nidalee and his Elise. Gragas is something that Nolte has played a whole bunch of and has looked very competent on. So I'm kind of happy to see him go back to a champion that he's got so much comfort with now. As you said, casters, they are ready to go, and we're going to hand it over to Hit Brain and Orcs.
Thank you very much, Scoundrel. Hello and welcome as we're getting ready to go into game number 1 of the final week of the NLC. Orcs, talk to me. What are we watching here in this game between Nordavind and Riddle?
Well, I think I'm looking at Maxi in particular. I think he's been given a lot of tools to play around. Great setup in the bot lane. There's setup mid with that stun card. And top lane is a matchup that all he needs to do is let Doxy do his thing. But the agency is on Riddle. Riddle need to find momentum in this one because eventually you're going to be dealing with an Azir and an Aphelios who have a lot of protection for them with that Braum and Gragas. So it's Riddle's game to take in the early levels, but it's also a game that they do need to have the emphasis on. I think level 6 is the big point we're going to be looking at because that's when Kha'Zix gets a ton of strength. That's when Twisted Fate gets his destiny to make plays around the map. You got the ultimate from Nautilus. So that's the key point where Riddle need to say, we are snowballing if we're going to win this game.
And where are they going to look to kind of, use that power they've got with the destiny, with the Kha'Zix? Where do you expect to see Riddle go early in the game? Well, at that level 6 mark.
I think that's the thing. I think you have a lot of options. As I was saying on the desk, they could have been in a situation where picking the Gnar there, leaving the Nautilus could have limited your options to play around bot, but that's not the case. I think that's what makes this one really nice is that they can go top lane. They can look to punish Renekton. They can get Doxy hyper-fed, but they can also go bot lane and they have an amazing setup with the Nautilus Misfortune to punish really early on. So I think that's the great thing is they have that flexibility, but the key thing that I need to emphasize is this all needs to be unlocked by mid lane. Azir in the hands of Ericsson will have priority in the lane. If he chooses to take it, you can just shove endlessly, especially with the nerfs to Twisted Fate, a little bit less wave clear because of the W on a longer cooldown early. So I want to see Maxi put a bit of attention around mid, have Wendelbo roam up, get an area of control there before you hit level 6. And then at level 6, it means Sankux can go top lane, go bot lane. He has free choice, and it becomes very hard for Nordavind to match if you don't have vision around mid, and both lanes are a potential vulnerability.
So eyes on Maxi early to try and unlock Sankux to move around the map. But let's move over to Envision with, sorry, not Envision, Nordavind with the Gragas for Nulti, something that we've followed Nulti for a very long time over back in the UK scene. This is a pick that I do really like him on. I like him on the things like the Elise and stuff like that as well. But Gragas kind of re-entering the meta with a few buffs, and Predator also getting buffed a patch before this. It's going to be really, really nice to see, and has the ability to kind of counter gank onto Maxi. There's a lot of CC you bring in with that Gragas, and you have to be careful if you're Riddle, because if you do overstep for one of these dives and suddenly the Fat Man turns up a Predator and gets a good belly bop onto a key carry, he could really blow open these counter ganks. That's something that they always have to keep in mind. So I think vision control and setup for those ganks is going to be very important from Riddle.
Yeah, I think a big concern for me is I honestly really like the Gragas pick. It's a great pick for Nulti, as we were saying, and also with the buffs, it's gotten a little bit stronger. But critically here, where you wanted to keep your backline safe, it's a really powerful pick. It has the cast to disrupt team fights, stop engage, and also if you see someone stepping up too far, you can just turn on them. For example, if Doxy goes for a TP flank or Sankux Destiny's in, good opportunity to punish. But that's not what my concern is with his composition. It's the Renekton in the top lane. So Renekton into Gnar, there's a possibility that we could see Mummas actually have an advantage in this matchup, but it's going to need gank pressure. If he can get a gank from Nulti, if he can burn Doxy's flash, if he can get strong enough to dash on him and trade with him, we could see Mummas challenging this matchup and coming ahead. But if it's left in isolation, he is not going to have a good time, and Doxy is going to slaughter him. And that's where the problem lies for Nordavind. Nulti, if he wants to keep his top laner safe, needs to go top. But then that leaves the rest of his team vulnerable, including his late game carries. But if he doesn't go top, Mummas is going to become essentially a walking ward. So it's really difficult to try and balance this one out. It makes it a little bit telegraphed. And ultimately, if Mummas falls behind, we could see Riddle just opening up into a 1-4 or 1-3-1 across the map. And then even if they're not necessarily strong enough to team fight against Nordavind, they can just play the map wide, and that should be enough to get them advantages, especially as Kha'Zix is so good at going into the side lanes and picking up easy kills. So that is my concern for Nordavind. They have a tricky early to mid game to navigate. If they can get through that, they'll be in a decent spot, but it's a big ask.
So if you wonder why you're looking at us, unfortunately we have had a little bit of a pause to start this off. I've just got an update. Apparently one of the players aren't feeling too well at the moment, so we're going to find out exactly what's going on with that. Hopefully we'll be able to get going into this game as quick as possible. Because I mean, the stakes are high right now. We got 3 days worth of games left in the league, and then we are done. There's still a lot of places open, and this game is very important for both of these teams. I believe Riddle are knocked out if they lose this here, but if they win, they secure playoffs. Am I correct in picking that, Orcs?
No.
No.
No. So basically, because of the head-to-head between these two, if Riddle lose this one, then they can't catch Nordavind anymore. So that puts them in a really difficult spot. They can still catch XL, but if XL win the next game, then they can't. So the knock-on effect is huge. So basically, if Riddle lose this one and then XL win the next game, which is XL against Singularity, and Singularity are 1-7, so likely, we could see Riddle being their maximum highest finish as 3rd place. Okay. Whereas right now, they could potentially finish 1st place. If they win this game, then they have a pretty decent chance of it, as they'll be tied in score with XL. Obviously, XL still has a game ahead of them today, so XL still has a way to keep themselves in 1st. But ultimately, Riddle need this win if they want to be trying to contest to get into the upper bracket for this tournament, if they want to try and maintain a spot where they get a second opportunity to defend themselves in playoffs. If they lose this, then they could even be caught up and dropped out of playoffs is the critical thing. So it's not a surefire thing that'll drop out of playoffs. It's just the potential to do so. If they win this one, they lock themselves in playoffs. They equalize the head-to-head with Nordavind, and they'll end up a point ahead. So all good things. Whereas Nordavind is, again, they just need the points at this point. They're both 5-3, and they need this win on the board if they want to secure a higher seeding.
Well, we are getting ready to go into the first game of the day. Nordavind's taking on Riddle. The stakes are high. Both of these teams do currently have the same points in the standings. They're trying to catch up with XL at the top of the tables. Like Gulborg said, this is the Battle of Norway. These teams have a long-standing rivalry, and a win here ties you up with XL for the moment. Like you said, XL do have a game coming up later, but puts them ahead of
their rivals.
Yeah, and it's kind of just the head-to-head's the important thing here, because Riddle actually have a winning head-to-head against XL, but that only matters if you catch them in points. Their head-to-head against the likes of Godsent, for example, is a little bit more tenuous, and there's potential for them to actually fall down out of playoffs, whereas Nordavind is safe. And it's reflected in playstyle. We've seen a safe playstyle from Nordavind, and then a safe spot here where they're not going to get knocked out of playoffs. But they're also going to struggle to ever challenge XL because they are losing in that head-to-head against them. So, you know, it's a consistent team against a more coin flip one, and the standings are currently reflecting that. Riddle have a real potential to go up and challenge XL, but this game is what is going to decide it.
Well, looks like our jungle is starting up on the red side apiece, so we'll be on the opposite sides of the map. We'll see if any tasty little bit of early gameplay comes out from either of them. Talk to me about the Gragas versus Kha'Zix matchup. I feel like, obviously everyone goes, oh, isolated damage on Kha'Zix, but one of the things you highlighted to me recently is the Q early is a fairly long cooldown, so I feel like if Nulty finds Maxi early on, I don't know if Maxi wins that.
I mean, the thing is, it depends who gets the jump on each other, because realistically, if Nulty gets the jump on a Maxi, he'll chunk him out and then he'll walk off. You don't stay for an extended trade against the Kha'Zix, because the Q cooldown before you have it upgraded isn't hugely short, but it's enough to work with. You'll win those 1v1s. But essentially, Gragas, you're not going to take a 1v1 unless they're low HP, is essentially the way you want to play it. You go for your combo, you back out. Whereas if Maxi finds a jump on a Nulty, he can 100-0 him. It will take like a second rotation of his abilities, but it's definitely possible.
Wonderboy goes in for a hook. They have got the level advantage bot lane. Does take a concussive blow on the tail end of that play, but they're okay.
A little bit interesting. We see Maxi just going for sort of buff, then Raptors, Wolves, Blue. He's essentially going for a pretty healthy clear that will leave him towards the top side of the map where he can defend Doxy or potentially look to punish Mummus. But Nulty goes for the full red side clear. This is very standard. We saw it a lot from Predator junglers when it was hard in the meta. You clear those 3 camps, you recall, you pick up boots, you're now level 3, you got your Predator activated. She's a really good spot, but it's kind of predictable. And I feel like we could have seen Maxi potentially punish that. You could have gone for an invade onto his blue maybe. But ultimately, Nulty gets away pretty scot-free. He's now going to pick up his blue buff. He's in a good spot to get this scuttle on the top side. And on top of that, he can give cover to Mummus, because Mummus is pushing up pretty aggressively right now. And if Maxi did end up showing up towards top side, that could be a bit of a concern. But having Gragas nearby gives you that element of safety. And again, with the Predator already enabled, you're able to get there really quick if something does start going down.
You saw earlier, Mummus actually went for a pretty heavy trade and ended out not coming off too well from it. Sunkux just teleports back to the mid lane. For the moment, Ericsson doesn't really have a massive amount of prio in this lane. So maybe not what they wanted, but Nulty, pop the Predator, looking to run Doxy down. Doxy, very low HP already, is about to gnar out. Don't know if you're going to get it in time. Flashes away to get some distance, but they will just run him down, and Mummus secures the kill. Nice and easy in the top lane.
Yeah, with some nice tricks essentially there to try and buy time for Maxi to arrive, but he was way too far away. You just end up burning your flash for nothing. And ultimately, a good gank from Nulty. This is something I highlighted before. You need to give some attention to this Renekton if you want to set him up for success. If you leave him in the 1v1, he is not going to have a fun time. So giving him that early kill, forcing the TP and the flash from Gnar, Mummus is feeling really comfortable, because now, if you're strong enough to all-in Doxy, you can flash on him, and then even if he jumps away, you have your gap closer to match, and he has no flash to even further the distance. So great early gank from Nulty there.
Junglers spot each other out, but I might have to hold that as Bebop is taken pretty low. The Graviton by Chris Berg will just slow them down for the moment. I do also want to take a moment to highlight the vision that Riddle have got towards this bot side. You can see if Nulty starts up his Raptors, tries to go for a mid lane gank. They've got a nice amount of vision to control this area. Thank you very much, observers, for just displaying that for ourselves. So does mean Riddle will be aware if Nulty looks to make the moves down on the bot side.
And not just that, it's important for the Twisted Fate. This is what I always like to see, is you set up the vision pre-level 6 with, you know, the wards like this, the control ward. And it means if you look at Senkix now, he's leaving the lane and Nordavind have no idea where he is. They know he's not, you know, walking through his jungle where there's a blue control ward, but other than that, he could be anywhere. And once he hits level 6, that becomes incredibly threatening, because he could be moving down. He could be looking to use a Destiny on the bot lane. He's now hit that level 6 point. You have to be really cautious about this.
instantly walks out the second he hits level 6. That's got to be scary. Wendelbo gets the grab off onto Bebop. Here comes the Destiny. Here comes the TF. Gold card lands onto Chrisberg, and Maxi's able to take him down. Nulty forced to flash away, but Riddle continue the chase. They find their pick, they're happy with it, and they make their way out. While Doxy wins the trade onto Mumus as well. So there's no teleport really going to come out from them, and this could just be a first early dragon for Riddle.
And my last words before that fight were you really need to be cautious. Nordavind decide not to. They try and force a gank when you know Twisted Fate 6, you know you don't have vision of him. What did you expect? Honestly, I mean, how is that going to go any other way? You didn't even bother TP and Ericsson in, so there's no way you're ever going to come out ahead in that one. It was a really poor play. I mean, credit to Riddle for reacting to it, but the fact that Nordavind initiated that is just really, there's no other way to describe it, really whack. And Chrisbig is now down in CS quite significantly. There's a kill onto Max early. It's a good first Destiny from Senkux then. Unfortunately, we're only able to get 1 kill, but definitely the start you want.
I think it was a good job by Nordavind to be able to get out from, you know, what was a bad start of a gank for them. They were able to at least answer out somewhat here. And the dragon doesn't get picked up by Riddle. They decided they weren't healthy enough to do it. They were a little worried about Mumus and Ericsson both having teleport. So no early dragon getting picked up. The Rift Herald will be spawning up in a minute's time, and we'll see whether or not these bot lanes decide to go for the swap out or not to try and get that. At the moment, Riddle do have the power here in this mid lane, in this bot lane, sorry.
But I think the concern is with that play, they didn't actually capitalize on the dragon after it. You know, they got priority, they got for the reset, that's great, but they didn't pick up the dragon, and as a result, it's still there. You don't want to swap towards topside and sacrifice the Cloud Dragon, especially when you want to potentially looking to pick up a win in this game early. It's important you start stacking the dragons, and also it's a Cloud Dragon. I honestly think Cloud Dragon is one of the best to pick up early, not just because of the stats it offers you, because it offers you that 10% ult cooldown reduction, which is great for Senkux, but most of all, because it means you know you're not getting a Cloud Soul. And all 3 of the other souls are in most situations better. Particularly if it's something like an Ocean or Infernal, they're absolutely great. So when you see an early Cloud Dragon, my instant reaction is, okay, we want that. We absolutely want that. And looks like Nordavind again fishing around the lane Chrisberg's in, often someone they want to play for. But Maxi's just going to take this dragon.
Yeah, he's pretty low at the moment. Although, going to get taken. Nordavind now know where he is on the map, and Nulty also revealing himself. So Senkux instantly moved out the lane the moment that ward got spotted by the sweeper, just in case he needed to head down. Didn't have Destiny, so just wanted to get there as quick as possible. We'll have that Destiny coming up again soon. So the blue buff handoff goes over. Riddle playing this early pretty nice for the moment. It's 400 gold lead, so it's not massively impactful here for the moment. Nulty trying to see if he can set something up. Wendelbo is going to get stunned up by the concussive blows as they do get the hook back. Big ulti comes out. Wendelbo trying to get the shielding off as Chrisberg almost answers back onto Rai. Easy kill for Nordavind in the bot lane. Pretty well executed there.
I think Wendelbo just was in a position where he felt like he wasn't really threatened. He had Maxi nearby, but you have to respect the CC lockdown between the Gragas and the Braum, and also just the raw DPS Chrisberg had with the white and the red guns, able to shred through. And now it gives Nordavind priority in the lane. They're going to be able to reset here, head towards the top side, and be in position to contest his Herald early. You do see that Maxi and Wendelbo are moving quite early to get some control of the area, which is a good response. They should be able to get some vision control in this area, clear out the scuttle, and essentially defend the top side before Nordavind get there.
Well, that pink wall place down did spot out Wendelbo. It was a pretty obvious play that it was going to happen, but Nordavind now operating with the knowledge of who is about where, as also Max is going to get spotted out. Doxy ends out losing a pretty heavy trade to Mumus. Sorry, Mumus ends out losing a pretty heavy trade to Doxy. And this actually may just give Riddle the prio they need to get on to this Rift Herald. They've got the crab, they've got the vision, and it just looks like Nordavind, they decide they don't want anything to do with this.
Yeah, which is, I often see teams sometimes opt not to match the swap and look to push the tower instead. But the thing is, Nordavind, Chrisberg and Bebop were so indecisive, they walked mid and then they came bot. It's actually delayed them quite heavily, so they're not really going to get much here. They might get a plate on this wave, but Rai's quickly coming down to answer this.
You know, Rai does have the bullet time as well, so can clear the wave somewhat efficiently and safely.
Possibly 2 plates actually in the bot lane.
Yeah, he probably will get 2. They got another wave crashing in.
Yeah, but at this point, Rise now there, and they don't want to overstay, so they only get one plate. Herald now in favor of Riddle, so it's absolutely an upwards trade for Riddle in terms of plates because they're guaranteed to get at least 2 on the back of that Herald, and potentially they're going to be looking to get a little bit more off the back of that.
What we have seen quite a few teams do as well is place it down in the mid lane to get prio, so they can contest the dragons. So that's coming up in 2 minutes. We may see Riddle just try and look to get himself an early dragon. It will be an Ocean or a Mountain Drake as our soul for this game.
So I think at this point, we can sort of take stock of where the game is right now. There's a slight gold lead to Nordavind. They have the extra kill. They have some CS advantage on Ericsson. So despite the fact Stenkick's got an assist, he's still actually only even with gold against Ericsson. And at this point, Nordavind are pretty comfortable. This is really the point where we're looking at Riddle finding some momentum. They've got the Herald. They've got another Dragon spawn up in a minute 45. There's still first tower available. We need to see them accelerating the gold lead here. Otherwise, Nordavind will have a pretty free path towards.
Oh, Maxi jumps in as Ericsson gets a big trade-off, shuffles back, gets knocked up, as now he's the one who's isolated, flashes away, casts to disengage Maxi, Steincuts lands the gold card, the soldiers coming forward, Nolty's ignited, and he will burn down as Wendelbo secures the kill. Riddle find themselves a kill in the 2 versus 3 as Mummers flashes in onto Doxy and looks to try and get the upper hand in this trade as the Dominus is ticking away and Doxy being chased down by the Crocodile. Mummers unable to connect any more damage though, and we'll just force him out of the lane. However, Ulti's going to get thrown down by Bebop. He actually throws out the Glacial Fissure, and they just go in for the dive onto Rai. The Moonlight Vigil's there. Bebop's tanking the tower. Chrisberg finds the kill, but the Destiny's coming in, and Senkuks just mops up with a free double kill.
Can't go for that play when there's a chef against you. They get the misfortune, but they lose 2 over the Twisted Fate. And now we have Riddle with more numbers on the map. Doxy TP's in top. We can see Senkuks return to mid. Means they're going to be able to get quite a bit of vision control down around this dragon as well that's spawning in 30 seconds.
Yeah, just done a full clear of his top lane, so we'll be heading down towards this dragon spawn up in 25 seconds, like you said.
And I think we're seeing Nordavind just a bit overeager. We saw them with that play trying to be made onto Maxi, Senkuks, and Wendelbo. It was 2 against 3. They still opted into it. And we're seeing another situation there where they're going for a play when they're not factoring in the Destiny that's available. Now, Herald's just going to hit mid, chunk it out, get an extra 2 plates down, which is pretty nice in terms of gold for Nordavind. They're now, for Riddle, they're now 500 up. But it was a little bit of an early one. Not really set up to sink in with them prioritizing the dragon. So, actually seen a reset come in from Senkuks to spend his gold. And he's going to likely TP back in and now try and contest this Herald. But Nordvind's stepping up. They could look to punish here. TP coming in on the flank. Look towards the Raptors.
Yeah, here comes the hook. Already depth charge lands onto Ericsson. He's going to get gold carded. Shuffles everybody back. Chrisberg's trying to collapse in time, but Riddle have already walked away with him. Moa spots the Dominus and looks to chase down onto Maxi. Slides
Great
into
stun.
the team. Instantly CC'd and taken out as Doxy secures another one. Chrisberg gets jumped into by Doxy. They do get the concussive blows off of the gold card being used, and Chrisberg will be hunted down. Bebop tries to get the stand aside to keep him alive as Doxy continues to chase forward into Bebop. Doxy will take a little bit of damage on the tower end, but here comes Senkuks. The bullet time will just melt through the members as Bebop goes down. Riddle capitalize once again and get a delayed ace.
Beautiful team fighting there. The TP in from Senkuks on the flank. And again, Nordavind overreaching. There's no reason they need to fight that dragon. It's the second dragon. It's not going to be the end of the world if you don't get it. But go in for that fight. Giving over 5 kills to the enemy team. And the dragon and the tower there is disastrous for them. We have a 4,000 gold lead for Riddle just about. 2 dragons already in their pocket. We said we needed more momentum from Riddle, and they found it.
And that has slung them 3,000 gold ahead. Senkuks got that rower, got the sheen. Infinity Edge just about gets finished up for Chrisberg. The item spikes are starting to come in.
And this is really where we can see Riddle ride on the momentum into the later stages. They have the opportunity to keep pushing down and challenging these tier 1 towers. They can play the map wide with a 1-3-1. They can play around Senkuks' Destiny. They're really in a good spot right now after that big gold influx. And now you can see Senkuks going for it on Mummus.
Mummus gets the Dominus off to try and survive for a while. Stuns up Doxy, has a bit of healing from the Q. Ericsson sliding in with the Sand Soldiers. Senkuks waiting for that gold card to come back up and available. Here comes Maxi, though. Mummus pretty low as Maxi just gets a quick assassination off. Muller slices and dices over the wall as Doxy flings out the boulder toss. Isn't going to quite connect. Meanwhile, Wendelboat going to dodge away on everything, and Nordavind tried to answer out on the top side of the map, and they just don't get anything in response. Nordavind getting walked around now.
There's nothing more desperate than trying to dive without a wave. You could tell that they were fishing, weren't able to find anything, and on top of that, Ericsson TPing bot only to die. Yes, Mummus does manage to escape, but now that gives up any pressure around mid lane, and they lose that mid lane tower. Now, Nordavind are going to be able to answer in the top lane, but it's still Riddle coming out ahead overall. Still in a comfortable spot, but Herald could be the consolation prize for Nordavind. That puts things a little bit more in their favor.
Yeah, they could use this to try and regain some control of this mid lane. They'll give Senkux a safe place to hide under and use these destinies so efficiently. Ericsson's going to be come back to the mid, catch this wave. And what do Nordavind need to be looking to do here? So what's their game plan? Riddle, they're accelerating off the pace they've been able to pick up for themselves. They're using Senkux very effectively. But over to Nordavind, what's their condition to get back into this game?
Stall the game out. That is literally it. Ideally, you would have been wanting to fight the third dragon and have left the first two, but because you didn't, you're now in a difficult spot for this third dragon. A steal would be ideal from Nulty. Obviously, you have the flash available. You got the body slam to get over the wall. If you can steal the dragon, great. If not, honestly, you might end up having to give it up. The worst case scenario is that Riddle get a Baron because their 1-3-1 would be really powerful with that. But until they do, you're happy just to sit back and farm up for your carries. You want Ericsson and Chrisberg to be as strong as possible before you are forced to fight. You've already made a pretty big mistake here. So unless Riddle do actively make a mistake, you kind of just want to be stalling and waiting for time. But
oh no,
trying to go proactive.
Dodging away on that hook there. Now Wendelboe might be in trouble. Has to flash away from the cast. The flash down of Wendelboe didn't really cost Nordavind too much on that front.
See, Nordavind fishing for numbers advantages, which is risky, I won't lie. It's definitely favorable if you can find a 4v3, then despite the fact you're down in gold, it doesn't really factor in too much. But the end result is that Senkux gets some alone time top lane, and in most of the situations where you're fishing for a numbers advantage, you have to factor in a destiny. It was safe there because Senkux was all the way top lane, but it isn't always going to be safe like that. And you can see now that Rai and Wendelboe are approaching, you have to be concerned about the Twisted Fate just turning up.
Mumbo's having to play safe as Maxi is about on this bot side. Legacy Streamer is about to time out in the mid lane as well, so Chrisberg no longer has this upwards place to play safe in the mid lane. Although without the hook on Wendelboe, that could always be something to keep in mind, but they're now just jumping into Mummus. Mummus has to flash away. Maxi gets stunned underneath the tower. He's trying to sustain, but he's unable to do so. Beautifully executed by Riddle there. Mummus just overextending.
I mean, why didn't you dash forward to clear that wave? Like, think about it. What was the point? That was an impatient move where you're like, you just want to do something because you're frustrated the situation you're in. There is no actual reason that Mummus needs to shove that in when your team is actively just playing a defensive game. And he just ends up getting greedy for it, and he gets punished pretty swiftly. So another kill in favor of Riddle. And that's now actually ruined Senkux's 100% kill participation, which I do want to highlight. Up until that last kill, 100%. And if there's ever sort of a metric to measure Twisted Fate by, kill participation is a pretty good one. And to have 100% before 19 minutes is pretty strong, I will say, from Senkux overall. Now you can see Nordavind trying to get mid priority. They are looking like they want to contest this dragon. Third is a dangerous one to give away.
They sacked top lane tower to make sure they had the numbers advantage here, but they still haven't actually been able to bully their way into the river yet. Doxy about to gnar out, and suddenly it gets really hard, but the cast goes wide. Nulty goes gold, and the Sand Soldiers are out, but the bullet time just spreads through Nulty as he is taken down. Senkux jumps in as Doxy gets the wallop down, and that is going to be the end of Chrisberg. Destiny's going to get thrown out as well, and Nordavind just sent packing. Riddle find free.
And again, it just looks like impatience from Nordavind. Why does Nulty feel like he has to engage there? You're engaging onto a Nautilus who has a stone plate. How is that ever going to work out well for you? Even if he hits the cast, that is not a good thing to happen. He just comes into your team, ults Chrisberg, and then presses stone plate, and he's not going to die. I don't understand what's going on with Nordavind. It feels like they're not playing to their win conditions at all at this point, and Riddle are just happy to capitalize on it. They know exactly what they need. They're happy to let Nordavind trip up and just push them into the ground.
We're looking at around a 25-26 minute Mountain Soul if Riddle can secure the next one. But let's have a little look at that fight once again.
Yes, I mean, it's just a poor engage coming from Nulty initially, and then after he's down, after on the back foot, it's very easy to follow up. And you can see so much priority put onto punishing Chrisberg there, and then Senkuk's just using the Destiny, using the teleport to find multiple angles to threaten. Just really nicely played, and Riddle have a really good composition at taking out one target at a time. You have great single target CC, you have great execution from the likes of Maxi, and even Rai has a lot of burst damage on that initial auto if you double up it. So just really playing their composition exactly how it should go. You know, we talked about Nordavind's composition coming into this. You're playing a front-to-back comp. You have a backline you want to protect and you want them to carry. You have a lot of tools to protect them. Gragas dashing forward to engage just leaves your backline vulnerable, and that's what we saw in that team fight.
Chrisberg has now got the Hurricane and the Infinity Edge, so a lot of wave clear to work with. But it's going to be a while until he's really going to be able to outpace what Rai's currently doing in the team fights. There's just big lead over to Rai. With the Essence Reader and Infinity Edge, there's a lot of AD to work with on that ultimate. As I like this ward that's been placed down by Nordavind, it means that if a Baron does go down, they have the knowledge to work with. No team has a teleport advantage at the moment. Ericsson has his and Doxy has his. But I am worried. If I was Chrisberg, I'd be so worried about Maxi right now. That's a 6-0 Kha'Zix. Senkux as well.
Look at the goal difference between jungles. That is just... That's significant, I'll definitely say. And obviously with the Kha'Zix buffs that he did receive, he is doing so much damage right now. And it's like really hard to punish Maxi as well. He's upgraded the ultimate, he's upgraded the Void Spikes. So not only is he invisible for longer, but he also has that AoE slow, which just makes it so hard to get on top of him. And again, Nordavind shouldn't be looking to get on top of him. They need to play the defensive game, but he's just playing around that so well, waiting for the opportunity. And yeah, I think the goal difference says it all in this situation. 6,500 in favor of Riddle. And they're actually fishing for a Baron here. They do it quite fast, but they have been spotted on that ward you mentioned earlier, so Nordavind coming to contest this one.
Although Mummus isn't actually about. Mummus
Senkux, he's waiting.
How to make their way up, but like I said, watch Senkux has the Destiny available. Nordavind are just going to back off. They have now got no vision at the Baron pit, and they've used their Scryers.
Yeah, I think you have to be a little careful on the Baron here, just because if Riddle do get caught in the pit, it can be really dangerous against the composition of Nordavind. But, you know, like, that is the only real concern. Naughty is 3 levels down on a Kha'Zix, who is already great at securing neutrals. So the chance of a steal is extremely low. But ultimately, I feel like Riddle, what they should do here is they should just wait for the dragon. You know, if you can find a pick, if you can fish for something, great. But don't go too risky. Wait for this dragon to come up, start a fight around that. Maxi should almost definitely secure it with a level 13 Kha'Zix versus a level 10 Gragas. And then once you have that Dragon Soul, the extra stats from it, you're in a great position to force on the Baron. Most likely, we'll see Nordavind try and fight the Dragon anyway. And if you win that fight, the game's as good as done, because you'll just pick up the Baron off the back of it.
Nordavind just hoping they can stall this game out. The QSS has been picked up for Chrisberg, just so he can deal with the CC from either Wendelbow or Senkux. Maybe enough. But right now working towards the Death Dance, got the Aegis, so a bit more sustain available, especially when you're on a Mountain Soul. And a percentage of your armor and magic resist get increased by that. Rai is actually going to really capitalize on that and be quite tanky for the moment. Quite hard to kill. For the moment, it looks like Nordavind, they don't want to separate. They don't want to get caught out by this fed Kha'Zix, that they are just grouped up. Maxi is on a flank in the jungle.
If you can find a pick here, it'd be absolutely massive. Nordavind need to stay pretty tight together. They need to be cautious. Like Doxy, hitting the Mega Gnar if they're grouped together, that's obviously not great for them. But protecting Chrisberg and Ericsson is of maximum importance. Dragon spawning in 10. Nordavind know they need to fight this one.
Clearing out some of the vision here for the moment. Senkux Charging up the cards, got the Destiny. They do have the Legacy of Streamer to hide under for the moment, but already the massive knock comes out by Doxy into the bullet time. That's the wombo combo they need. Chrisberg's just been melted through as a double kill has been picked up onto Wendelbo. Maxi goes godlike, and it's only 2 of Nordavind left standing. Destiny's going to get popped. And that Steinkuk's just making his way towards the bot side. Dragon Soul going to be secured. Towers are going to be secured. And Riddle may just be able to move over and pick themselves up a Baron after all of this as well. Just a complete fumble by Nordavind. And a great capitalization by Riddle in this game.
This is a Lich Bane TF, by the way. He takes objectives so fast. But, I mean, yeah, it was a perfect pincer move coming out from Riddle there. And Nordavind honestly just flopped in that situation. We're now at a 9,000 gold lead. Mountain Soul in the pockets of Riddle. They are not looking good, their chances here. And you got to remember the stakes of this game. If Riddle win this one, they're in a position where they could catch XL. They're already ahead of XL on the head-to-head. If they catch up to them in scoreline, they will end up getting first place in the group.
Super, super important for them here to find this win. It looks like Nordavind, they just want to set up around this Baron. They've got the boards going down. They're going to try and get control of the area. Nulty will get spotted out by the ward by Riddle. This 3-level disadvantage between the junglers is really, really big. Nulty is so weak right now. 0-4 on the Gragas. Got a completed jungle item and the makings of a Zonya's Hourglass. Well, Maxi been sitting on that Dusk Blade for a while. Got the Cleaver, got the Warriors enchant.
And again, we're now seeing the 1-3-1 open up on the map. Nordavind want to group up and contest Baron Vision, but we have Doxy in the bot lane. We have Steinkuk's in the top lane. And actually, Nordavind are in danger being flanked in this situation.
Yeah, Destiny's going to get used. Chrisberg! Goodbye! Maxi finds the kill. They're using the Destiny as well to go bot lane. And the inhibitor's just going to get taken down by Steinkuk. Like you said, that Lich Bane means it goes so quick. Everything gets interrupted as the bullet time comes out. Mumma spots the Dominus. They're looking for the fight. Wendelbo gets popped back. The stone plate is on. He's too tanky to cut through. The mountain is huge as Mumma slides in, but the game is being ended by Riddle. They're on to the Nexus. This is just going to be Riddle closing the game out. Nordavind unable to do diddly squat. Nexus goes down at 28 minutes and Riddle crushed Nordavind.
I mean, there's no other way to phrase it. They absolutely massacred them. Just great play from Riddle overall. They knew how to play the fights. They knew how to play around the Destiny. The coordination was strong. And we talked about how after that level 6 to sort of that mid-game point was when Riddle really needed to put the emphasis on. They absolutely did. Maxi had a massive game there. And Steinkuk's with the early game Destinies was huge. But Nordavind, what happened? This was, you know, we had a last couple of weeks being a bit rough for them, but this was just honestly disastrous. It felt like they were lost. It felt like they were making plays when you know that Twisted Fate has Destiny, that bot lane play where you should absolutely expect the Twisted Fate to be there. They still opted into. And I think most criticism has to go towards Nulty. I'm really not sure what he's doing at the moment because he just seems to be wandering around, getting caught out consistently, trying to engage and botching it. And then even if he had secured the engage, it would have been a poor one to go for. His Nordavind roster just seemed to have fallen off a cliff. And I think Nulty's the one who's struggling the most. And it is the worst possible time to do it because they are still locked into playoffs. But if they go into playoffs playing like this, they'll be out straight away.
It is a worrying trend for Nordavind. It's a great time for Riddle to, you know, be on this upward trend that they are on. And that win there is super big for them. Now, guys, we're going to cut to a quick break. And when we're back, we'll let the analysts desperate that game down further. So we will see you in a second.
And with that, Riddle continued their win streak, and they still look an incredibly polished team, like something completely switched with Riddle about 2 weeks ago, and suddenly we're seeing an entirely different squad. And Nordavind still, unfortunately, shaky.
And honestly, I don't know what it is with Riddle, but suddenly something just clicked within them. They're making everything work. They went from a team who were relying heavily on laners facilitating Maxi to now being Senkux, being the central point of the team with this Twisted Faith pick. We saw it last week too, how good they are at actually playing for each other. Not only that, they continue with that mid-jungle synergy as a duo where they're actually capable of taking fights they need to get individual leads that they can transform into objectives and sooner into just the game. I like this kind of Riddle.
Yeah, I just want to take a moment to really praise Senkux in particular. I thought his use of teleport and how he was getting the priority away from Azir, constantly keeping Azir at low mana, so you never really saw the Twisted Fate shoved under his tower. It was the Azir under his, which you're normally not used to seeing, and then also finding great opportunities to attack with that Destiny. I thought he was really the turning point for a lot of Riddle's success, at least in this game.
And I also have to take it on the other side of the battlefield because Nordavind, again, very clear plan on paper. Like Frost mentioned, the Azir meant to take priority all day long. You've got a very strong top set that you can play through whilst you have the scaling bomb that's ready to explode down the bot lane with the Aphelios put together with the Braum, and then he's meant to stay safe, and then that indecision strikes in again. And Nordavind that doesn't know where to take the fights, when to take the fights. They're walking into their own deaths. They're disrespecting the level 6 onto Twisted Fate in the hands of Senkux. Well, that's extremely dangerous. And I felt like they were the ones handing over the slight lead that they had in the early game, because even with the CS differential right there, Aphelios was ahead of the Misfortune. They were just never ready to use that because they were throwing it constantly away by taking fights they shouldn't be.
Yeah, which is why our play of the game is going to be that Infernal Drake. And you may ask yourself, why is the Infernal Drake the play of the game? Well, gentle viewers, it's because this is where the game was decided. There was absolutely zero reason for Nordavind to fight here. None. Shouldn't have done it. They were in between items. They were behind in items. They had a scaling composition. They didn't need to walk into river. What did they do? Face first into the wood chipper. Any type of scaling that could have been granted to their composition, they decided to just give that snowball over to Riddle, and Riddle ran it down on them. This was just a gift wrap for Riddle. Just 5 tasty, delicious pieces of ass kicking.
And this is just what we have every time too, right? It's like, they shouldn't do this. We're fairly sure they're not going to do this. Oh, okay, they're going to do it. They're going to start the fight. And as a result, they are just going to lose it. As Frost says, this is just where the game is decided. You've got a scaling composition. Just give it up. You don't have to fight anything. It's not even soul point. It's just the second Drake.
The amount of cast.
Oh, go ahead, sure.
No. I was going to say the amount of casters that I've listened to that have said, it's just second Drake, stop fighting for it. Even I have learned that now.
Me saying, they're surely not going to fight over this. And I think Frost comes in and is like, they're going to fight over this. And then boom, play of the game. Excellent.
Oh, my word. Well, look, the man who really was the catalyst for this was Senkux, and I've got him ready for an interview, so I'm going to chat to Senkux briefly. Senkux, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. Hello.
Hi, congratulations. Obviously, Riddle quite clearly reborn. I remember seeing it from Doxy tweeted 2 weeks ago, and I thought, really, is it going to happen? And it genuinely looks like you were a completely refreshed team. First of all, I'd love to get your thoughts on that. Like, what is it that happened between like the 3 weeks ago and 2 weeks ago, where suddenly it was like Riddle had flipped the switch? You guys just somehow clicked, and your team looks like a top team in this tournament now.
I think before we played a lot of individual game, we didn't really play well together as a team at all. And then I would say, like you say, start 3 weeks ago, but that's when we started winning. I would say 4 weeks ago, we kind of identified what we need to change, and it made it so much easier for us to play as a team and close out a lot more games than before, where we would kind of, I don't know, we would just take a lot of random fights and flip the game a lot. So yeah, it's definitely more consistent for us now, and that's why it looks better as well.
Yeah, a bit more controlled in game, I suppose. But it definitely, I think you're right. Sorry, yeah, 4 weeks and 3 weeks. I got my dates messed up a little bit. Specifically with this game, what was your plan on the Twisted Fate? Was it either snowball bot or snowball top, or just kind of see what opportunities were available on the map?
I mean, with TF, it's always like we just look to play with the man advantage we can get. This game, they tried to look for a bot fight. I remember it happened last week as well when we played against Godsend. They were looking for bot fights, even though we can just TP down from TF, and they kind of punishes them. But that's like it was no plan before the game who we were gonna focus. It just comes from draft and how the game kind of plays out.
Okay, and yeah, and it obviously worked out very well. You had some really influential TPs on Twisted Fate. Did you? This is a genuine question now. Did you personally think that you would be fighting for first place in Group A after the start of your split? Like, did you ever in your head think this was going to be a reality? Because that's where you are now. Like, you're fighting for first place.
I mean, before we started the split, I would say yes. After the few weeks of problematic games, some would say, didn't look too hot, then it was. I mean, it was questionable, but I still believe that we could pull it back for playoffs. Getting first in regular season is obviously nice, but it always matters how you play in playoffs. And the lower bracket, upper bracket system makes it nicer to be top 2, and that's hopefully what we kind of secured today. Let's see about what happens tomorrow, but yeah.
You've definitely secured playoffs. I've just been confirmed that you are absolutely in playoffs. It's just about that seeding, like you said, and the top 2s. So you've got a couple of games left to go, obviously, or a game left to go, and you can definitely secure a top 2 with I think with another win there. I'm not going to put it on paper and say that's absolute, but it's definitely looking likely, and quite clearly you guys have definitely deserved it with the way that you've been playing. And finally, we've kind of talked a lot about the teams in this league. We've kind of looked at their respective strengths and weaknesses, but the one team that really does stand out, and I think it's quite clear to most players, is Fnatic. They are a team that has kind of dominated from the get-go. Do you like, what are your thoughts on playing up against Fnatic? Like, do you think that you have a good chance at taking them on and getting a win off them? Because every other team has tried so far and just completely failed.
I think right now we definitely could. I think before they looked obviously like the best team out of all of them, out of both groups. But I also do believe that the Group B is a bit weaker on paper than Group A, so that's why it looks easier for them.
Okay, it's interesting because we've had people say the opposite, right? We've had people say that the Group B
is
just
wrong.
That's just wrong. I love it. Do you know what, mate? I'm gonna leave you on that bombshell, mate. I'm gonna leave you on that bombshell. Thank you so much for joining me for the interview, and yeah, we'll see you soon.
See ya.
Hey, look at that. Straight wrong. Group A is much more difficult than Group B. I love it. I love to hear it from the players. Now, guys, Goldbug, I believe you wanted to jump in quickly.
I mean, I'd say the same, but it was a tough group if I lost the game to Godson. So, you know, I get it. He lost to some teams like that. It's like, you know what? Let's play it off. And it was a really hard game. You know, I want to see it in playoffs before I believe it. Until that, it's just talk.
Oh, okay, right. Now, I'm gonna 2 bombshells in a very short period of time. I love this. Right, let's quickly take a breather. I think I definitely need one. When we're back, we'll be going to our second game.